until 2016. If you lived in Colorado and put a barrel under your downspout to catch rain off your own roof, you were technically breaking the law. An actual water rights statute that treated the rain landing on your shingles as already spoken for, owned on paper by someone downstream who might never even know your house existed. It's the direct result of a 19th century water doctrine that most of the country has never heard of, and it's still shaping what you're allowed to build in your own backyard today. The system in this video costs somewhere in the $700 to $2,000 range in parts for a mid-size setup, against a professionally installed commercial rainwater harvesting package that can run past $40,000. This build includes a backflow preventer and purple-painted pipe, even though the water inside never touches your drinking supply, and nobody but you will ever see it. That's not the contractor padding the bill. It's the one design decision in this whole system that looks like overkill, and isn't for exactly the same legal reasons that made rain barrels illegal in Colorado for over a century. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some states banned catching your own rain, why others require you to register it, and you'll be able to build a system that's legal, code-compliant, and sized correctly. Most people assume the rain landing on their roof is unconditionally theirs. Free water, zero paperwork, a garden hobby with a barrel and a hose. In most of the country, that assumption is basically correct. But in a cluster of Western states, it collides with something called the prior appropriation doctrine. Prior appropriation grew out of the 1800s American West, when settlers needed certainty about who got water and when. The rule that emerged was first in time, first in right. Under a strict reading of it, all water in the state, including the rain falling on your roof, belongs to the system, not to you personally. That rain, left alone, would eventually reach a stream, recharge an aquifer, or flow to a downstream farmer who already holds a legal claim to it. Catching it in a barrel intercepts water that was already promised to someone else. Colorado applied this doctrine about as strictly as any state in the country. Before 2016, collecting rainwater in Colorado was effectively illegal for most residents, the actual enforced state of water law. A narrower 2009 law, HB 09 DWEL 129, only opened the door for engineered pilot projects at the subdivision level, approved by the state engineer, not for a homeowner with a barrel. It took until 2016, with House Bill 16-1005, for Colorado to legalize residential rain barrels outright. Utah followed a similar arc. Collection was restricted for most residents until 2010. The naive move was assuming a rain barrel was just a garden accessory. It wasn't. It was a water rights question with an actual enforcement history behind it. The other naive move is assuming a catchment system is legal everywhere because it's legal where you live. And the commercial industry doesn't always correct that assumption, because a full package cistern quote doesn't come with a legal footnote. The flip side of this history is just as important. Most of the country never had this problem at all, and some states now actively reward you for building this system. Texas exempts rainwater harvesting equipment from state sales tax outright. Tucson, Arizona offers a rebate of up to $1,000 for a permanent graywater or rainwater harvesting installation. The same country that once fined you for a barrel in Colorado will, a few states over, hand you money to build a bigger one. That's two different water realities producing two completely different policy instincts. The moment a catchment system connects anywhere near your home's plumbing, even just for a backup fill line, it also becomes a plumbing installation, governed by the same code that governs your toilet. Understanding both layers, the water rights layer and the plumbing code layer, is what separates a system that's actually legal from one that only looks legal. Rain hits the roof and runs down through the gutters to a downspout. Before it goes anywhere else, it passes through a debris excluder, a screen that catches leaves and twigs so they never reach your tank. Next comes a first flush diverter, a dedicated length of pipe that catches and discards the dirtiest initial flow off the roof before clean water is allowed through. From there, water enters your storage tank, whether that's a small rain barrel or a larger cistern. A mesh pre-filter sits ahead of the pump inlet, screening out any fine sediment that made it past the first flush. A pump pressurizes the stored water and sends it out to your irrigation lines, drip emitters, soaker hoses, or sprinklers. If you've added a potable water backup line to keep the tank from running dry, that connection runs through a dedicated backflow preventer, isolating your drinking water from everything downstream of it. Two things determine how this system actually gets built where you live: your state's water rights category and whether any part of the system touches or backs up into existing plumbing. Whether any part of the system touches or backs up into existing plumbing triggers plumbing code regardless of what your state's water rights law says about volume. One sentence version: rain gets filtered twice, stored once, and pressurized out, with a hard wall between that water and anything you'd ever drink. always. Your roof doesn't collect rain by its surface area. It collects by its footprint, the flat shape it casts when you look straight down from the sky. Think of your roof as a funnel. A steep funnel and a shallow funnel with the same size opening catch the same amount of rain, even though the steep one has more physical surface. Rain falls essentially straight down, so what matters is the shadow your roof throws on the ground below it. A steep metal roof and a flat gravel roof with the identical footprint start with the identical rainfall hitting them. Where they differ is how much of that water actually makes it into your gutters instead of soaking in, splashing off, or evaporating. That fraction is called the runoff coefficient, a property of the roofing material, not the roof's shape. A smooth, hard surface sheds water efficiently. A rough, porous surface holds onto some of it. Every calculation from here forward starts with footprint, then gets discounted by that material factor. This matters more than it sounds like it should, because your legal collection limit and your physical collection potential are two completely different numbers that most people accidentally conflate. Utah caps unregistered collection at 100 gallons per covered container, 2 containers maximum. A single decent rainstorm on an average roof will fill that limit in minutes, not hours. The physics of your roof will always outrun the legal ceiling on a modest system, which is why oversizing your tank without checking your state's registration threshold is the single most common way people accidentally step outside the law. Debris excluder and first flush diverter, a length of PVC pipe, capped and drained by a small valve at the bottom. 4-inch PVC pipe holds about 0.67 gallons per foot, so a diverter built to catch around 5 gallons runs about 8 feet of pipe. Look for Schedule 40 PVC, the standard pressure-rated pipe, and a slow drain valve at the bottom. Not a fitting you have to remember to open by hand. Pre-made first flush diverter kits built for 2-inch by 3-inch or 3-inch by 4-inch residential downspouts with an adjustable valve and built-in filter, run in the $20 to $30 range at the budget end. Downspout diverter fitting, shape-specific, not universal. Standard residential downspouts run 2 inches by 3 inches. Larger homes often run 3 inches by 4 inches. Some houses use round downspouts, typically 3 to 4 inches in diameter. A rectangular diverter built for a 3 by 4 downspout will not seal on a 2 by 3 or a round pipe. Measure your actual downspout before you order anything. Storage tank, the most expensive single part of the system, typically 50 to 75% of total system cost. A standard 55-gallon rain barrel runs somewhere around $90 to $350 depending on size and features, averaging around $140. If you're scaling up to a cistern, above-ground systems typically run $1,000 to $5,000, and underground systems run $3,000 to $8,000 or more. Look for opaque, UV-resistant plastic or concrete, never a clear or translucent tank, for reasons you'll see in a minute. Mesh pre-filter, a stainless steel screen strainer with a see-through housing so you can tell at a glance when it needs cleaning. Match the pump to what you're feeding. Drip irrigation emitters need roughly 20 psi and around half a gallon per minute per emitter. A small 12-volt diaphragm pump in the 1.8 to 3.0 gallon per minute range, rated between 55 and 100 psi depending on the model, covers that with headroom to spare. If you're running sprinklers instead, you need a pump rated closer to 45 psi at 4 to 6 gallons per minute. Check the label against your fixture's rated demand before you buy. The formula, gallons collected equals roof footprint in square feet times rainfall in inches times 0.623 times your runoff coefficient. Small scenario, 400 square feet, asphalt shingle, 1-inch rain event, comes out to about 224 gallons. Typical scenario, 1,000 square feet, same coefficient, same event, about 561 gallons. Heavy use scenario, 2,000 square feet, metal roof, higher coefficient, about 1,184 gallons. In Utah, 2 covered containers at 100 gallons each caps you at 200 gallons without registering. Even the small scenario, 224 gallons, blows past that unregistered limit on one storm. In Colorado, the cap is tighter still, 110 gallons combined, no permit required. The typical scenario, 561 gallons, is 5 times that limit from a single storm. Check your state's specific cap before you size your tank, and register if your state offers that path. Utah's registration is free and takes your system up to 2,500 gallons once approved. Sizing a tank bigger than your legal collection allowance means you built physical capacity you're not permitted to use, which is money spent on a tank that has to sit partially empty by law. Gutters leak. Seams overflow in heavy storms. Documented losses from gutter problems alone can run as high as 20%. Apply a safety factor, typically 0.65 to 0.95. Take the heavy use number, 1,184 gallons, apply a conservative 0.85 safety factor, and you're planning around 1,006 gallons of usable water. Sizing your first flush diverter matters too. It's not free water you're throwing away. It's a fixed, small tax on every one of those numbers, paid once per rain event. Run the same math in a state with no volume cap at all, which describes most of the country, and the constraint flips entirely. The only ceiling is your budget and your yard space. Phase 0. Check your state. Confirm whether your state restricts residential rainwater collection, what volume triggers registration, and whether your local plumbing jurisdiction requires a permit. Phase 1. Gutters and debris excluder. Fix any sagging or leaking gutter sections first. This is the 20% efficiency loss hiding in plain sight. If your gutters run under overhanging trees, this is also the phase to add a gutter guard. Cheap insurance against the exact organic debris your first flush diverter is otherwise stuck absorbing. Phase 2, downspout diverter and first flush diverter. Measure your downspout 2x3, 3x4, or round before ordering the diverter fitting. Mount your sized first flush standpipe on the downspout, below the excluder, complete with its slow drain valve. Do this before the tank goes in. Phase 3, storage tank placement and venting. Set the tank on a stable level base, in shade or wrapped to block sunlight. Confirm the tank has its own vent and that the outlet sits a few inches above the tank floor, so you're never drawing settled sediment back into your system. If you're near a state volume cap, this is also the phase where you commit to a tank size that matches your legal ceiling, not just your roof's physical output. Phase 4, filtration and pump. Install the mesh pre-filter directly ahead of the pump inlet, then mount the pump. Connect the pump before the filter is in place, even once, and you risk pulling grit straight into the pump housing, a repair, not a cleaning job. Phase 5, distribution piping. Run your lines out to the irrigation zone and mark the piping clearly, even if it stays outdoors. Phase 6, the backup connection, if you're adding one. Install the backflow preventer here, before you ever open that valve. This is the plumbing code equivalent of the water rights history you just learned, a rule that looks bureaucratic until you understand exactly what it's preventing. Failure 1, the green tank. Symptom: cloudy, green, algae-choked water a few weeks after installation. Cause: a clear or translucent tank left in direct sun. Fix: an opaque, UV-resistant tank, or one wrapped and shaded. Failure 2, the leaky 20%. Symptom: your actual harvest consistently falls short of what the math promised. Cause: gutter overflow and seam leaks, silently eating into your runoff coefficient. This is the failure that gets misdiagnosed most often. Failure 3, the silent cross connection. Cause: a potable makeup line tied into the rainwater tank without a backflow preventer, meaning untreated rainwater can be pulled backward into your drinking water. Fix: never skip the backflow preventer on that connection, full stop. Failure 4, the unregistered overflow. Symptom: a tank size bigger than your state's no permit collection cap. Fix: register if your state offers a path above the cap, or downsize the tank to match the unregistered limit. Failure 5, the wrong shape diverter. Symptom: a diverter kit that arrives and simply doesn't seal. Water running down the outside of the fitting. Fix: measure your actual downspout with a tape measure before you order anything every time. Start with water rights. Most states place no meaningful restriction on residential rainwater collection. A cluster of western states does. Colorado allows up to 2 rain barrels, 110 gallons combined, without a permit for outdoor use on single-family or small multifamily properties. Utah allows up to 2 covered containers at 100 gallons each without registering, and offers free registration up to 2,500 gallons above that. Neither of these numbers is a national standard. They're specific to those states, current as of this video, and subject to change. Check your own state before you build. Then there's plumbing code. Installing a non-potable rainwater collection and distribution system requires a permit. Full stop. Submit construction documents and, in many jurisdictions, engineering calculations to your local code official. An approved alternative path, the CSA B805 ICC 805 standard, exists in some jurisdictions. Backflow protection, a dedicated assembly, or a physical air gap of at least 4 inches above the tank's overflow. Distribution piping carrying rainwater is required to be purple, or wrapped in purple tape, and labeled as non-potable at regular intervals. Buried piping needs to be separated from potable lines and sewer lines by several feet of undisturbed earth. Rainwater can legally become a drinking water source in some jurisdictions, but only through a formal approval process after the local authority having jurisdiction formally approves the water as potable. Getting there requires a documented disinfection protocol, flushing the system clean, then filling it with a chlorine solution at a minimum concentration held for a set duration, flushing again, and retesting. All wetted materials in a potable system have to meet LEED content and material safety standards set by NSF, the National Sanitation Foundation. Exact permit-free thresholds beyond the 2 states named, and whether your city layers its own rules on top, vary enormously. Check your local code office before you install anything. This video is educational and not professional electrical, plumbing, or structural advice. Codes vary by location and change over time. Mains voltage can kill, and stored water and stored energy can both destroy property. Have your plan checked by a licensed professional and your local code office before you build. For a simple 2-barrel system, you're all in under $300. For a small cistern setup, call it $700 to $2,000. Against a professionally installed commercial package that starts north of $40,000 once you're in large cistern territory. Depending on where you live, the bill can shrink further. Texas waives sales tax on the equipment. Some municipalities offer rebates on the tank itself. Be honest with yourself about why you're building this. If you're doing it purely to beat your water bill, the math doesn't favor you. Municipal water is remarkably cheap. You're building this for water security when the well runs low, and because rainwater is naturally soft and won't scale up your pipes and fixtures the way hard tap water does. This system feeds directly into the next one worth building, a drip irrigation layout size to actually use what you're now legally and correctly collecting. Educational only? Verify against your local code? Build it once, understand it forever? Subscribe if you want the rest of your homestead explained the same way.